So here I am, confession, I've never watched This Is Us because everybody talks about how much they cry when they watch this show. I gotta, like, why do I need to watch This Is Us? Like, my life is full of enough drama. I am us. I don't have time for This Is Us, but it is a pretty good show now that I've watched one episode, so kudos to y'all. I'm gonna do another video about if NICU parents should watch it. I mean, ultimately it's your call. Spoiler alert, that's really what it boils down to. And there's spoiler alerts in this show, so if you happen, in this video, so if you happen to watch This Is Us, like, you may not wanna watch this video, because I'm gonna say some stuff and I'll probably ruin it because I don't know any of the characters' names. I'm gonna go like, that guy who was in this scene doing this thing. And so you'll probably be very frustrated with me if you're like a mega fan. I apologize in advance for messing up stuff about your favorite show. Let's get into what they got right and what they got wrong. What they got right. The waiting game and the perspective from family members. Now, I can't really speak on this. I feel like this is different for every family. I don't have any relatives that live in my area or in my state, and so a lot of their waiting was on the phone until we were able to text and let them know. I can only imagine what that would be like if they were there and waiting, and so the tension that arises with what hospital staff can share and not share, and that dynamic, completely spot on, and I think reflects the variety of instances you would see in a situation like this. What they got right, not knowing about the surgery. There's this moment where they look like pissed and angry that nobody let them know this emergency surgery was going on, because it's an emergency surgery. As somebody who's gone through that, it literally happens just like that. Like, literally, they're like, in my case at least, they were like, we gotta go, and I'm just being wheeled off, and they're like, you can't come with. So hubby wasn't even there, right? It happened that fast, right? Yeah, he says yes. What they got wrong. The dad not being able to, like, come out and tell them that the surgery was happening or any of that stuff. If it's an emergency surgery, 9 times out of 10, the dad is not going to be able to go with the wife. My husband wasn't able to go. Nobody else was able to go inside of there with me, and I felt like they missed a good opportunity to, I mean, This is Us. I hear they go for, like, peak dramaticness, right? And so that would have been an amazing dramatic moment to have him watch his wife be wheeled off in an emergency and not be able to be there for the birth of his own child. And the surgery is quite long. I mean, mine's was, you said over an hour, babe?
Yes.
About over an hour. And during that time, you texted people, right?
Yes.
Oh, see, he could do it. And I hope, because now I'm going to have to watch, that they go through, like, what happened in that moment while he was in surgery, like they do some sort of flashback. And apparently, according to my friend, there's, like, some drama around when the character's water broke. She had to go through an ambulance or something. And so that could be a really great moment of her being in surgery and him wrestling with, like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And he could have just had that breakdown there of, like, did my actions cause this? I wasn't able to be there for my wife. I just feel like that would have been, like, a really good moment. So, I mean, I don't know, freebie for you writers. Like, I'd like to see what happens in that hour she was in surgery. But that's artistic license. Chalk it up to that, you know. Everybody jokes about how bad Grey's Anatomy wasn't always, like, accurate. I'm not expecting, like, a full medical documentary, but, you know, what did they miss? What did they hit? I just find it interesting. So there's that. What they got right. The dad's look of shock when he comes into the waiting room with his family, spot on. I didn't get teary-eyed through any other moment other than that moment, because it was the first time I could see what a dad's perspective would be. I mean, I had my husband, but it just, through, like, being on the outside looking into that moment of what he could have been going through, because you're so busy dealing with your own traumatic birth experience, it's sometimes hard to remember, like, they have their own journey through that. And specifically, it's so unique for those dads who experienced an emergency C-section, because they watched their wives being wheeled away. They got to see the babies first on their own before the wives even got to see them, right? Because they're being wheeled out. And so his experience of what he saw his babies, that's why he was like, he put them in this glass cage and they're explaining stuff, like, right, they're explaining stuff to you while it's happening, right, babe?
Yes.
And so there's all this stuff happening that he's trying to absorb on top of the fact that his baby is born early, right? And so I remember stuff being wheeled out. I shouldn't say I remembered. I see the video of the incubators being wheeled out, and it's not even Elijah taking the video. It's my friend Deborah taking the video of my husband seeing them for the first time. And it's unreal because they're not only in these incubators, they're in these plastic bag thingies, and that's just not how you envisioned your child. Meanwhile, the doctors are giving you all the risk. It's super high risk. At this point, they are literally micro preemies on this show. So it's wild. And so absolutely right where he's like, can you call my dad? Like, can you call my parents? Somebody let my parents know something's going on. Like, all of that was spot on of just like, I don't even know how to process what this is, right? What they got right or wrong, again, a writer's choice, artistic license. The whole concept of, well, how's she doing? He's talking about his wife, and he's like, oh, she's doing great. She's great. She's probably sleeping in post-op trying to wake up, because that's where I was. But I feel like while I'm sleeping or right after surgery, if he came out and told everybody and people would go like, how's your wife doing? I think he would answer like, she's doing fine. Am I right? Like, because I'm in post-op, right? And I'm knocked out. Mm-hmm. And people are, and during that time, somebody texts you and goes like, how's she doing? How would you respond?
She's doing all right.
See? Okay, well then they got that right. I take it all back. But yeah, I feel like, right? But likelihood, she's asleep. She's in post-op. Here comes the part where they bring them into NICU. Some parts they got right, and it was great, like, attention to detail. And other times I was like, did you go in a NICU? Like, ever? What they got wrong. Balloons inside NICU, people? Like, put balloons, you don't let balloons inside NICU. Not that level kind of NICU. Like, what kind of level NICU is that? I mean, that's another thing. Like, she had a NICU 3, a NICU 4. Like, if this is a micro-preemie baby, they might want to transport this baby into another one. That's another episode I'd be interested in seeing how this plays out. We'll get to that later. But balloons in NICU, fail. No. No. What they got right. The noises and look of NICU, right? They didn't have a lot of nurses walking around, and that's fine. Like, I get that. That would be weird in the shot. They didn't have a lot of family there. And I wish it would anchor to people who are looking through this who's never experienced NICU that other families are there. You see one family and it's very short and you almost miss it. But there's a gentleman looking at an incubator, and there's actually, I think, like the mom or somebody on the other side. You can't really see her face, but I think it's a woman. And he's sad. Because when you're in NICU, there's incubators and babies all over the place. There are some, depending on the hospital you go to, private rooms. But by and large, you are experiencing this with a bunch of other people and what they're going through. So you could be going through NICU the first time and you could see stuff being quarantined off or people in robes getting ready to do stuff. They got the beeps and the stuff right, but they tried their best to get the essence, and I felt like it was, for what they could do, pretty spot on. Wrong was inside the incubator. They didn't nest that baby. Like, this is where you start going like, I should be. Every micro-preemie parent or people who've had an extended day and extended time in NICU always joke, it's like, you could just be a nurse at this time. But I was sitting there like, they nest that baby's arms all just like out like this. This is what my children look like on that first day in their incubator. I'm just saying, but it's TV. So whatevs. The incubator wasn't covered with a blanket like typically it is for their eyes, but they move it to the side. And maybe in this one, I'm supposed to remember that they just took it all the way off. Creative license. What they got wrong is technically something that, creative license. She had an emergency C-section, so she's not seeing her kid right away. Like, they're waiting till like she's okay and settled. She's in her own room. And then she's at a good place and they wheel her in. So wheeling her in was completely correct. Some people said, well, she should have been dazed and confused. Maybe not. I wasn't. And so the way she responded and the way she looked and her cognitive state and her emotional state was very much where I was, mainly because you're just in shock. When I went in pregnant, they knocked me out and I woke up and I wasn't pregnant. And so it hadn't even computed like really what was going on that first day. So I felt very much in the same place that she was. I think some people were frustrated that she wasn't a little bit more upset, but that's where everybody's journey is a little bit different. they didn't go through like all of the stuff that they break down when you first go to their incubator. I have a little clip of like us going the day that they were born, like when I was able to go for the first time, and all the stuff that's playing in the background.
So he's actually got both lines in his belly. He's got a umbilical line for his vein and his artery. So when we need to get labs, we're able to get it through that arterial line.
And the nurse talking and like not understanding anything that they're saying, because I'm too busy going like, is that my baby's? Like what is that? And just kind of being in shock in that moment and not processing. It almost sounded like the way the dialogue was written was like nobody had even talked to them about what was going on there. And so that was a little bit of a miss. You don't see a lot of nurses in the background, but again, creative license, I get it. Too quiet. So what is another thing they got wrong? The NICU incubator scene where they're right up on it, too quiet. Like that baby is probably intubated. It should sound a little bit like this.
His wrist. Here, so we can draw blood out of it. But all his vital signs.
So when my babies were born, first day, that's what it sounded like. And so by and large, I felt like they did a good job. Another thing they got right was showing that like family stuff is still going on. This is life. And so while something like this is happening, real life drama that surrounds you and your family doesn't stop because of this one particular situation in NICU, right? And so that's where the writing I'm really interested in seeing, because I know that I went through my own stuff in NICU on top of like real life stuff with just life and job and friends and everything, right? That stuff doesn't change. And so how all that plays in will be really interesting to see. But this is us, NICU. Pretty good job. No balloons in NICU though.